We are gonna get started by microwaving our chocolate chips for 30 seconds. And pop them in for 30 seconds. When you get them out, and this is a half a cup. So make sure before you microwave them all, take a few out because I gave you some extra because I figure we need to eat some just to make sure that they taste good. So we're gonna take some out. I've got another person joining. I saw that pop up. Take some out, eat some, pop them in the microwave, and when they come out, they're not gonna look fully melted, and that's okay. And then you're gonna pour that liquid that I gave you in with the chocolate chips, and you're gonna stir it. So the liquid I gave you is that peppermint extract and a little bit of vegetable oil, and that's gonna help it from seizing up.
Is it this?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, great.
Do we use all of it for the dark chocolate or for the chocolate?
Yep. You are. And you're gonna
Do we do half and half for both?
nope, you're gonna put all that liquid in with the chocolate chips and stir it.
The brown one?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, yeah, the semi-sweet chocolate chips. Hey Jonah.
Yeah.
I microwaved these too early. Can you pop this in for another 15 seconds? Yep. If it's not all melted, I melted mine early before class. Then you can pop it back in for another 10 or 15 seconds. But you should be fine. If you just got them out, this should continue to melt. We've got our chocolate, and you'll smell it too. It probably smells really good. Does it smell like peppermint and chocolate? These might be the best two flavors to mix together.
I tasted the what's it called?
Peppermint.
Peppermint.
You did? It's kind of strong, isn't it?
Very.
It's very strong. And you know, there was only a half of a teaspoon of the peppermint extract in there. I put a half a teaspoon of that, and I put a half a teaspoon of the vegetable oil in there. But if you were just to put the peppermint extract in with the chocolate, it would seize up and it wouldn't be nice and melty. You'd have to microwave it a lot, but adding that oil helps to make it smooth. If you have peppermint oil, straight up peppermint oil at home, which is very strong, then you wouldn't need to add the vegetable oil. So our next step is we're gonna take this melted chocolate and you're gonna take one of your parchment papers that I gave you, and you're gonna set that down. You can put it on a tray or a plate, either one. And we're using it because this will peel off nicely once we're all done. And you're gonna take your chocolate and just pour it right on one of those parchment papers. And we're gonna spread it around. You can use a spatula to spread it. You can use the back of your spoon. You don't want it super thin, but maybe like kind of like a quarter of an inch, maybe even less, maybe an eighth of an inch.
And it should be all the way melted at this point?
It should be all the way melted. It doesn't, yeah. If you have any chocolate chip in there still, then I would maybe pop it in for a few more seconds. You want it to be smooth. But it doesn't need to be so hot. So if it's all melted, then you're good to go. And I'm just gently spreading it around on my parchment paper. You may almost fill it, but I spread it. You can use back of a spoon or a spatula. Great part about doing that is you get to have a big lick right after you do that. So, you know, don't forget, this is a great recipe to taste every piece of it. And now what we're gonna do, we're gonna get this cold really quickly. I'm gonna put mine in the freezer. So once it's spread, you can put it into the freezer. And it doesn't have to be super neat. It can just be spread out. And we're putting it in the freezer so we can get it solid quickly. Okay, so the next part is we've got our white chocolate chips. And we are going to microwave our white chocolate chips for 30 seconds. So we will microwave, I'll have my assistant do that. So you're gonna microwave your white chocolate chips for your 30 seconds, and you're also gonna get your baggie of your peppermint candies. So I have unwrapped them all for you and put them into this baggie. And we're gonna keep them in this baggie because this is gonna keep them nice and neat because we want to crush these guys. And you can use whatever you've got handy for crushing. Could be a hammer, could be a rolling pin. Make sure that when you're crushing it on something, you want to protect, if you've got counters that you don't want to scratch up, you know, maybe do it on the floor or something, I don't know, but you can take, I've got this mega rolling pin and I've got my baggie and I'm just gonna crush them. You can have them in any sizes. Because we're gonna be using this for the peppermint bark, thanks, Jonah. I like to have them in small pieces. And sometimes even when they're like little crushed crumbs, that's good because we're gonna add we're gonna add most of them to the white chocolate. So I'm gonna crash. I'm gonna mute while I do this so I'm not like breaking your guys's. Now you can stir your white chocolate chips. Once they're out of the microwave, they should be melted. If they don't melt all the way, then they might need a few more seconds. But usually, if you just put it in for 30 seconds,
Then what?
you should be good. So we've got our microwaved white chocolate, and I'm gonna keep stirring because mine's not fully melted yet, but since the rest of the white chocolate is melted, it should just melt the rest of my chips. I don't need it that hot, just enough to make it melted. So I've got my white chocolate all melted here. And now, if you haven't yet, you take those peppermint candies and make sure they're crushed. You'll have different sizes, and that's okay. We're gonna use most of it. I would maybe reserve, I don't know, a couple pinches or so. We're gonna use most, and we're gonna put into the white chocolate and stir it in with the white chocolate. But we're gonna save some because that's gonna be dropped on top of the finished product. So we use most of what your crushed candies are in here. Use most of those. And then that's gonna go into the white chocolate. So the way I do it is I just pinch a corner in my bag and then I pour the rest in. So I'm holding on to some and I'm pouring the rest into my white chocolate. So here's my leftover. I'm gonna save that, save a little bit. And now I'm stirring in what I crushed into the white chocolate. So this is gonna smell amazing. And now we're gonna grab our frozen semi-sweet chocolate out of the freezer. So that'll be cooled enough. And we're gonna put this right on top of it. So we have our semi-sweet chocolate that we had spread out on that parchment paper with the peppermint extract in there. So that's nice and pepperminty. Yeah, it's nice and cold. And you'll see.
Putting the white chocolate on top of the dark chocolate.
Yep. So when you take it out of the freezer, you'll see it's probably pretty hard. It cools down quickly and it gets solid again, that chocolate. Now you're ready to spread this, the white chocolate, on top. So we're just gonna pour it in. Pour it on top and you're gonna spread it right all the way over. It doesn't have to be exact. You can have some edges of the dark chocolate showing. Makes it fun to eat. So this is gonna smell like peppermint yumminess. You can almost make it look kind of like a pizza. You can have the edges around showing. So here's what mine looks like. And now if you have your extra crushed pieces, those can just be dropped right on top. Put them in your hand, eat a few, whatever you want to do. And you can crush those and drop those right on top. Sometimes, you know, if the white chalk's getting a little hard, you can maybe press it in a little bit. And now when you are ready, you can either set it aside because it's going to cool down on its own. If you want to speed it up, you can put it in the fridge or the freezer, up to you. But you can actually just set it aside and it's gonna get hard pretty quickly. Once it's all hardened, you'll check it. Then you can start breaking off little pieces. You don't have to cut it in any way. You can just break it apart if you want. So my finished product that I made last night, I broke it off, and of course we've eaten quite a bit of it, but you can just have it broken into little pieces. And the white and the dark will stick together. Oh, here's another piece. But you can just break it off and eat it. So that's your peppermint bark. Does anybody have questions about the peppermint bark? And we can prep our ornaments too when we're done with this. You guys did a great job. So I'm going to set my peppermint bark aside so it cools down. And like I said, you can put it in the fridge or the freezer, or you can just set it out. You don't want it to be on like a warm counter or anything, of course, because it's chocolate, but it'll harden. And you can either choose to keep it in the fridge or you can keep it on the counter. I usually just put it into a Tupperware container and I break it up, put it into Tupperware, and I leave it on the counter. So it usually goes pretty quickly anyway. Why go through the extra step of getting it out of the fridge when it's pretty much going to be gone in about, I don't know, hour? So we'll set that aside.